Mr. Munch 2 first appeared in the 1984 edition when he was recognised for having the greatest, widest diet. It's the person who's eaten the most strangest things.
You may have heard that strange people exist, but you don't know the extent to which that happens. These humans with amazing body features live among us, giving us every reason to be very thankful for our diversity. Join us as we take you on a virtual ride to meet 20 rare humans who are 1 in a million. Number 20. Lal Bahari. In some parts of the world, you could be living but also be declared dead. This could happen for so many reasons, and for Lal Bahari, he heard that it could happen to people, but didn't know that it would come so close to him. His story sounds like the plot from a horror film until you realize that he is a real person who was born in Uttar Pradesh, India, and lives with his nuclear and extended family. One day, he filed for a loan at a local bank, but when bankers would check his records, they said that he was dead in the official government record. He was shocked and tried to prove that he was alive, but they would not believe him until he presented the proof. He had to undergo several legal procedures to get the authorities to erase his name from the death register. His uncles were responsible for the mischief, as they wanted to block all possible opportunities for him to seek help from his local government. Number 19. Nagak. When was the last time that you had a sound sleep? Your answer may not be so far-fetched. It could have been last night. But if I ask you how long you can stay without sleep, you would probably not have an answer because you may have never tried it. However, what if I told you that one man has experimented with a lack of sleep and emerged with a tremendous result? Nagak is one of the most rare humans on the planet. He's a Vietnamese insomniac. He's believed to have gone without sleep for well over 6 decades. Despite going that long without sleep, he functions like every other normal human being. Scientists tell us that sleep is crucial for the normal functioning of the human body, but he defies this rule and leads a normal life. He also spends long hours on the farm without getting tired, and while he seems healthy, he could suffer some emotional and physical troubles from a lack of sleep. We simply assume that he's healthy until he's diagnosed with a medical condition pointing in that direction. Number 18. Kathy Jung. How far could you go to get a bangin' body? Several hours in the gym perhaps, or even starve yourself of fatty foods. These are merely scratching the surface compared to how deep some people will go to enhance their looks, and for some, it's all about stealing the show and standing out from the crowd. These extremes can also help you to win world records. Kathy Jung has always been determined ever since childhood. Today, she's known as the woman with the world's smallest waist. Her tiny waist measures just 15 inches, and she wishes that it could become more slim. If you do a quick experiment on your waist to see how wide it is and then compare the difference. She achieved this size not through surgery, but by consistently wearing a corset for many years. She's married to a man who supports this dream and helps her with her corset tying sessions, provided that they stay healthy. Kathy has no reason to be scared about the impact of the corset on her health, as her husband is an orthopedic surgeon and would advise her accordingly if things did not turn out well. Number 17. Mikel Lotito. Humans are not created to eat just any old thing. We should only consume foods that nourish our bodies and help us to become healthier. But apparently, this rule escapes some people for a weird reason. You may not have heard of Mikel Lotito, a strange man that eats absolutely everything. But how is that possible, you may ask? Well, this Hungarian man became a record breaker after daring to do what normal humans could never do. He's infamous for eating bizarre items that range from vehicles to steel to metal and iron, and even an entire aircraft. Even more alarming is that he never falls ill, and his teeth are sturdy enough to crush everything. Aside from all of that, his intestines are so thick that they can resist any food or item poisoning. This explains why he honors any invitation that asks him to show off his eating skills. He does it effortlessly and moves to the next challenge like it's nothing. You know who to call if you're looking for ways to eliminate those waste metals in your home, because he'll chew and swallow them for you, but at a cost. Number 16. Susafan Nadi. Susafan Nadi is the world's hairiest teenager. She comes from Thailand and was diagnosed with Ambra syndrome as a child. This makes her hair grow even in areas where it shouldn't, and as expected, it makes life a little bit tricky for her, but she's lived long enough with it to be adaptable. She admits that while she does look different from her friends, she does not consider herself to be isolated. She attends the same school as every normal child and is not discriminated against. This helps her to integrate into society much better and love her uniqueness even more. Her mother was in tears seeing her for the first time. Her emotions were a blend of uncertainty, disbelief, shock, and fear. However, she and her husband would soon accept the truth, and although they have tried various treatment methods, nothing has worked for their daughter. Their daughter has had to live with people taunting her, making fun of her, and calling her names like werewolf, monkey face, wolf girl, and all kinds of other unpleasant things. Number 15. Sanju Bhagat. It's said that only women can get pregnant. However, it may be possible for a man as well, under certain medical conditions. While this is rare, it does happen, but not in the way that you may think. An Indian farmer by the name of Sanju Bhagat would be born with a bulging stomach. As a child, his parents thought that it was just one of those infant illnesses that would phase out as he became older. However, it didn't. His stomach continued to grow bigger, as though he were pregnant. His friends would tease him, calling him the pregnant man, and although it was a joke, they did not know how correct they would be. When he was 36 years old, his stomach had grown so large that he couldn't breathe. The situation became problematic for him, and that's when he visited the hospital for emergency surgery. When doctors took him in, they thought that it was simply a tumor, but when they began the procedures, they soon realized it was actually a fetus. This condition is called the fetus in a fetus, meaning that a fetus is trapped inside of its twin. In other words, Sanju was carrying the body of his twin all along and didn't know it. His parents never realized the severity either, and surgery would have been done a long time ago. Number 14. Matayoshi Mitsuo. With many laying claims to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, it's hard to believe anyone's words. Every country has had its own share of prophets that raised the alarm and announced that they were, in fact, the Savior of the world, because the Bible is not certain about the exact time of the second coming, and many gullible Christians fall for these antics. Matayoshi Mitsuo is a Japanese man who says that he is, in fact, Jesus Christ, the Almighty God of the earth. He insists that his teachings will usher in a new world order and that people must listen to him before it's too late. Matayoshi was a candidate in many elections from 1997 to 2013 and lost every single one of them. He would later be known for his extreme teachings of urging his opponents to commit suicide by disembowelment. Number 13. Abby and Brittany. This entry is for two humans that are in one body. Abby and Brittany Hensel are American conjoined twins, and their condition is rare because they're highly symmetric and appear to have a singular body without marked variations from typical proportions. Each of these ladies have a different heart, spine, stomach, a pair of lungs, and a spinal cord, and as adults, walking or clapping requires cooperation as they have one hand and leg each. However, they can also write and eat simultaneously because they have separate hands and mouths. Other activities like swimming, running, and even driving require both of the girls to agree to do them. Abby and Brittany would not have been like this until now, except that their parents were scared that a surgical operation would leave one or even both of them dead. They heard stories of Siamese twins not surviving several hours under the knife and feared that it would be the case for their girls. They would rather have them conjoined and help them navigate life than to lose them forever. The duo lives their best life as they've been away from the media to concentrate on their careers. Number 12. Nick Vujicic. If you've ever felt emotionally down with no one to get you back on your feet, you've probably not met Nick Vujicic. He lacks almost everything that you have, yet he lives his best life and motivates others. Nick Vujicic is an Australian-American Christian evangelist and motivational speaker that was born with tetra amelia syndrome, a rare disorder that's characterized by the absence of arms and legs. He was born in Australia in 1982. Because he was born with this condition, his mother refused to touch him. And when her husband walked in and saw the baby, he too became enraged, and they considered abandoning the child. After contemplating ways to handle the situation, they then accepted the condition as God's plan for their son. Nick's toes were initially fused, but a surgical operation would be completed to separate them so that he could gain some balance and use them to grab onto things since he didn't have hands. He calls those toes chicken drumsticks, and his disability never stopped him from having a budding career and social media presence. He receives invitations from organizations globally to speak to people giving up on life, and if he can survive, then why not you? Number 11. Tom Staniford. Sometimes it's not the absence of food that makes one slim, it's also not the presence of food that makes them fat. Other external factors come to play that make it happen. Tom Staniford is one of 8 people globally who suffer from MDP syndrome. This rare condition means that the sufferer's body cannot store fat under the skin or the soles of their feet. Tom was born a normal child, but at the age of 12 years old, he began to lose fat around his face and body. He also has only 40% of the muscles of an average man, and the condition also hampers his hearing abilities, forcing him to use hearing aids. It feels like the weight of the world is on his shoulders, as he's also been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, the fat levels in his blood are as high as someone who is clinically obese. While others hide their personalities from the public due to their condition, Tom lives like every other normal man. His girlfriend Alice considers him a normal person and doesn't see it as a big deal spending the rest of her life with him. He's a law graduate who earns a decent living to care for himself and his family. Number 10. Kim Goodman. Who would win if you gathered up 5 friends for an eye-popping exercise with a price attached for the winner? The winner is someone capable of stretching their eyes up to 12 millimeters. It is most likely that no one would pass that test, as only one woman in the world is known to have such a rare capability. Kim Goodman can pop her eyes out of her eye sockets by 12 millimeters. She holds the Guinness World Record for the farthest eyeball protrusion. She resides in Chicago, Illinois, and was not born with the unusual skill. However, growing up, she would be involved in an accident that affected her head.
It was by accident. I hit myself in the eye with a hockey mask, and it popped out of the socket. And every time I would yawn, it would pop out.
From then, she noted that she could pop out her eyes on cue, and they involuntarily popped out whenever she yawned. She began to practice it as a skill and showed it off to anyone who was willing to watch. She's appeared on several television shows, which also included The Late Show with David Letterman. Number 9. Amu Haji. After a stressful day at work, we return home for a warm bath before settling in for a meal. While this may work for you, Amu Haji frowns at it as it's against his principles. He's known as the dirtiest man in the world, and he had his bath 65 years ago and has vowed to never do it again. He's now in his 80s and resembles a troll from the fantasy films. He needs no costume to feature in a horror movie as he's fully dressed. Amu lives in a village in Iran, and it's there that he lives a dirty and primitive life. His most prized possession is a 3-inch steel pipe through which he smokes animal dung instead of tobacco. He's obviously attracted to everything disgusting. His skin is muddy and scaly, and you can barely see his eyeballs. When his pictures would first go viral, many believed that he actually was not real. He eats animal carcasses like rotten porcupine meat, and at night he retires into a hole resembling a grave. When asked why he chose the lifestyle that he did, he simply said that cleanliness brought him sickness. Number 8. Soon Ming Ming. Soon Ming Ming dwarfs nearly everyone that he stands next to. Measuring 7 feet 9 inches tall, this Chinese man also doubles as the tallest basketball player in the world. The Guinness World Records backs up this title. Aside from being a professional athlete, he's also an actor who loves his fans to watch him perform other activities that are outside of sports. He was featured in Rush Hour 3 as a kung fu giant for a fight scene. While being the tallest basketballer is cool, he and his wife are also the recipients of the tallest living couple in the world. His partner is 6 foot 2 inches tall, and together they're a combined 13 feet 11 inches. Soon suffers from a condition called acromegaly, causing his body to release high growth hormones and low testosterone. This condition would have been managed as a child, but because he came from a poor home, there was no money for any kind of procedure. Luckily, his agent would organize a fundraiser to raise money for a surgery that was later successful. Number 7. Julia Noose. Julia Noose is also known as the Illustrated Lady or the Irvine Walker because there's no drawing that you won't find on her skin. She was born in 1955 and ever since became fascinated with body art and has designed all kinds of things for her body. In fact, 95% of her body is covered in tattoos. She holds the Guinness World Record for being the most tattooed woman in the world, and her love for body art began in her 30s when she developed a skin condition that results in the blistering of the skin when it's exposed to sunlight. Because these blisters would bring on scars, she then began to get tattoos to cover them up because they were more fancy. The scars are similar to third-degree burns, and she didn't want people looking at her with pity. Her friend, a plastic surgeon, would suggest that tattoos were perfect for concealing scars, and after the first try, she was not satisfied with the outcome but loved the art on her skin. It soon became quite the addiction that was impossible to stop. Number 6. Satanic Kazaran. Crying is a part of human existence. We cry when we're sad, excited, or even emotional, and sometimes we don't have any control over it. Doctors have even affirmed that it helps to cleanse the eyeballs, so if you find tears rolling down your cheeks, well, then you've got nothing to worry about. That is, unless you are Satanic Kazarian. She was born a normal child with no reason to visit the hospital. That was until one day when she noticed persistent eye pain and then went to see an optometrist. After examination, it would be revealed that she had some crystals in her eyes that would drop if she cried. Days later, she cried and watched those crystals painfully leave her eyes. Her condition would force her to frequent many hospitals, and the results were always the same. They agreed that the crystals were formed from tears but could not say why. It was anatomically impossible for the human body to form those crystals, so they wondered why it happened to her. Many doctors were scared to attend to her as they had never seen such a condition like that. Number 5. Rose Guile. There are rare people worldwide who consistently hide for fear of what people would say. You don't blame them because humans will sometimes bully them, especially if they think that you don't conform to their societal standards. Rose Guile grew up having a beard like a man during her teenage years. The beard would result from a hormonal disorder that caused her hair to grow uncontrollably, and as a child, she would shave it and not want anyone else to see because it was embarrassing. She visited several doctors for treatment and applied all kinds of ointment on her jaw to impede the hair growth, but none of it ever worked. She gave up and then learned to accept the reality of her condition. She showed off her face on social media, not minding what people said, and then went out with friends. She may not have completely gained the confidence that's needed to survive in this discriminatory world, but at this point she loves herself enough to not care what other people think. Number 4. Macy Curran. When it comes to our appearance, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Some wish that they were taller, while others may be rather short and live a normal life. But what is certain is that the diverse kinds of body types make up our world and make it into an interesting place. For taller ladies, their most interesting feature may be their long legs that stand from their waist downwards. While it sounds like an asset, it's actually a burden for someone like Macy Curran. She is the current Guinness World Record holder for the longest pair of legs. Her left leg measures 53.2 inches, while the right one is 52.8 inches. She is 6 foot 10 inches tall, with her legs constituting 60% of her overall height. She's confident in her rare body, but this has not always been the case. Growing up, she was bullied for her disproportionate body that she wished that she was shorter. After receiving recognition from Guinness, she was inspired and seized the opportunity to educate other tall ladies like her to never give up on their looks. Number 3. Beatrice Puglisi. As much as we hate to admit it, we're imperfect beings. There's hardly any human that has a perfect body. However, society has made us accept some body types as being the standard. And by all means, Beatrice Puglisi does not fall within the category of normal people. She has a birthmark like everyone else, however, hers is quite unique, covering 80% of her body, which includes her face, shoulders, and chest. Now, I wouldn't be talking about it if it was hidden somewhere on her back. Her condition is so rare that only 1 in 500,000 people suffer from it, and what makes it even more terrible is that she's at a higher risk of contracting skin cancer because the affected parts of her skin can easily become irritated. Beatrice is ready for whatever life may throw at her, though. She inspires young Brazilian women to be proud of their bodies, regardless of their situations. Number 2. Sarah Gertz. Many years ago, models were known for their slim and slender, flawless bodies. People who aspired to this career had to meet certain criteria. Today, though, it's more fluid and attracts all kinds of people, which also includes Sarah Gertz. She is one of the most unusual models that you may ever meet. Sarah was born normal until being diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a condition that has made her skin baggy and elastic. This disorder affected her stomach as it resulted in her losing 18 pounds. She grew up seeing normal children and wished to be like them, but felt that nature was unfair. Becoming a model was a dream come true. She now has an active social media presence, which she uses to educate young women like herself to love their bodies. The more that she accepts the saggy skin, the more excited she is to show it off to the world. Number 1. Bashir Aziz. The saying that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover plays out in this one, because Bashir Aziz was born with a rare skin condition wherein his skin had black and white patches. This would result from a lack of melanin or a limited amount of it on his skin. He was irritated as a child because it happened to him and none of his friends. He felt as though he was weird and would cover as many body parts as possible. This condition is called vitiligo and is a rare autoimmune disorder. He visited several hospitals for the solution, but doctors told him the same thing every time. Only time would heal his body. He would soon accept himself and become a model to break the barriers. At the age of 23, the patches began to shrink and his dark skin started to take over. He was uncomfortable with the news as it had stripped him of being unique. He wished that it had stayed longer, but in any case, he still considers himself to be one of the most rare humans on the planet. Have you ever met any humans that had unique features? And did they feel embarrassed about their condition or did they embrace it? Let us know all about it in the comments section down below.